Good morning. I'm Matthew Dixon. I'm the CEO of Eve.io Cryptocurrency Ratings, and I'm pleased to be with you again on 3.0 TV to bring you the very latest trader updates and crypto news. So, of course, the main news today is that Bitcoin has hit a brand new all-time high as we speak, 122,120. And that's, of course, based off some really positive news coming out of the US. We have really strong spot ETF flows and then political momentum ahead of the US crypto week, and then growing institutional adoption. So it's crypto week in the US, and the House gears up for a crypto week of legislation. And we have three main acts today, which are the Genius Act, which is about stablecoin issuer rules. We have the Clarity Act, and that's defining SEC versus CFTC authority. And then the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act, and this is about central bank digital currencies. So these are all very, very important, and they're looking to provide clarity in the times ahead for cryptocurrency. So basically, regulatory clarity, which is only good for the industry. And of course, in the news, we have Trump once again with new tariffs, and he's talking about potentially tariffs of 35% on Canadian imports, 15 to 20% on others. And this is putting real pressure on global trade, commodity prices, and equities. Then, of course, the Federal Reserve Chair Powell has pointed at these trade tensions as reasons for delaying rate cuts. Of course, people are wanting rate cuts to continue to stimulate the economy. I think Fed Chair Powell is concerned about potential inflationary pressures coming from tariffs, etc. So there's a bit of a battle going on there. Who wins? Who knows? Time will tell, but it's actually a serious concern for me that Trump will potentially impose these tariffs. I think it will slow the economy both in the US and worldwide, and potentially will be inflationary and will put a dampener on potential interest rate cuts for the future, which could continue to spur the economy and risk assets forward. So let's just see how that all turns out. Let's take a look now at Bitcoin and see what the outlook is. Obviously, we're at that new all-time high now, 122,175 now, just advanced a little bit further. So in the big picture, looking slightly longer term, and I will scroll out to show where we're at long term here. Let me just scroll out a little bit further to go all the way back to the FTX crisis. And here we are. The FTX crisis was when Bitcoin hit a low of 15,500 approximately. And from that time, we've been working on a cycle higher. This is in Elliott wave terms. We work in cycles. This is a 5-wave cycle to the upside. So the FTX crisis low was here, and we basically had a wave 1 in red, up, 2 down, 3 in red, 4 down. And I think that we're working on a final 5th wave to the upside in this cycle. Following the end of that cycle, we should get a pretty substantial correction, I believe. So let's just look at where we are now. As I say, we're in this final 5th wave up in red on this cycle. So if I now expand that chart out a bit so we can try to see where we are, we can see that even that 5th wave itself, in the usual fractal form, is broken down into a further 5 waves. So here we have basically wave 1 in blue, 2 in blue, 3 in blue up, and extended wave 3 as expected. Some kind of ABC or WXY wave 4. That's just a normal correction. And we're working on another final wave, fifth wave. So we're in a 5th wave of a 5th wave, actually of a 5th wave. This is multiple fractals. Like Russian dolls, a doll within a smaller doll, within another doll, etc. So they're all just fractals in nature. They just repeat themselves, 5 waves within 5 waves, etc. So here's a final 5 waves, but then even within that, we have another final 5 waves here. And eventually, you'll get smaller and smaller fractals. You'll get to the end of the 5th wave, and that's when the eventual correction will happen. But what was really interesting this weekend, we broke above what I expected. I did expect we'd go to at least the 1.618 extension of this first wave. That is the golden ratio. That's a very common extension, but actually we can very often extend to further Fibonacci extensions, very important levels. The next one above here will be the 2.618, and that's where I've got the next potential target for this wave 3 within the larger wave 5. Then we get a wave 4 pullback and a final wave 5 to the upside. So I do think there will be a limit, but actually Bitcoin could potentially go quite a lot higher from here. So there's a lot of positive things happening in the background, nothing particularly negative. The geopolitical front has gone reasonably quiet for the time being. and the macroeconomic is not too challenging right now, although that could flare up with the Trump tariffs. So we need to keep a very close eye on that. So potentially, as I'm saying, potentially higher for Bitcoin to go. Same story with Ethereum here. Quite interestingly, on Ethereum, we have an overhead resistance here. So we can see that it was basically touched one, two, and a third time, even a fourth time possibly. We touched that overhead resistance, which is preventing price breaking sharply higher at the moment. And it could be that we get a little pullback before we eventually break through to the upside. It does look as though we have quite a serious impulse. Here was a Petra upgrade, which was an upgrade to the Ethereum protocol, improving the functionality and efficiency of Ethereum. And that caused a massive pump upwards in price. We've had a correction down in the form of an ABC, which is quite normal. And now we're pushing up in a final fifth wave here in this cycle. So I think, again, we don't know exactly how far it will push up, but we will get another correction before higher again. So I think we are expecting a bit of a correction soon, but maybe we will break this upside resistance. If we do, it could break sharply, quite a bit sharply higher. So let's see how that goes. Solana has had a really good run. Again, Solana, it looks as though we've got higher to go. We had this, we've had a couple of lows from that previous all-time high. We came down in corrective manner, and I am convinced this is a correction. And if I won't go into the detail now, but there's a lot of telltale signs within this movement down that it is corrective. Just not least, we have a triangle formation here in this position here, which is a B wave position. It's telling me this is a correction down to that really important 95.86 low we had in Salana. We moved up and we moved down again. Another significant low here, $126 for Solana. And I think we're now actually in another upward cycle. Could move quite a lot higher with Solana. So I wouldn't dare be short. I always look to buy dips, especially with Solana. I think it's the cryptocurrency chain of choice at the moment for retail traders. And there's a lot more institutional interest now with Solana ETFs, etc. So I think there's great potential there. One that I note quite a lot, looking at JASM, again, I think we've got some really positive movement here for JASM. It's a very popular token, got an amazing following. I do chart it quite closely. It seems to have some really solid fundamentals. So that's one to watch. Looking at the S&P 500, this is the only one I think that gives me cause for, or I say the only one, it does give me a bit of cause for concern because longer term, again, we're in this long-term fractal, 1, 2, 3 here, 4 down here, which is an ABC, 4 down, and working on the final fifth wave to the upside. Now, the reason it gives me cause for concern, is because within this final fifth wave, I think we have, again, it's broken down into 5 waves itself. And I'm just trying to open it out so that we can see that. Just get rid of those. Let's just see now what we can see. So we've got a wave 1 up in red, 2 down in red, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in blue to give us 3 up in red. Then we have, very importantly, a triangle formation in this wave 4. Triangle formations are pre-terminal waves. Then the final wave beyond it is the terminal wave, which itself is a fifth wave made up of 5 waves. And I think we've had a wave 1 up, 2 down, 3 up, and we may be within the 4th wave and still got 5 up to go. I mean, I do believe we've still got probably a 5th wave higher to go. But all I'm saying is this is a terminal thrust to the upside. We do actually have divergence in place at the moment, which is where we have a situation of higher highs in price and lower highs in corresponding RSI. And the RSI is clearly coming from overbought here and here. So overbought peaks here in RSI, signaling potential at least correction, if not top. But I do think probably this is just a wave 4 correction for the time being, and we will have a further push up. And this would align quite nicely with our expectations for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, JASM, etc. across the board. I think we still have a bit higher to go to finish this final 5th wave thrust to the upside for S&P 500. And I think that will correlate quite nicely with other cryptocurrencies. And one I just want to probably finish on, well, I won't finish on it actually, we'll just look at dollar index. Again, I predicted this long before it happened, this long held parallel support channel for dollar index, and we started to see dollar move up from that long held parallel support. This goes back for years, and we bounced really nicely on that support line, and we've been moving up consistently. Dollar index is now at 98. So that is a bit of a concern, because if we continue to rise on the US dollar, that will create potential headwinds for risk assets, because there's an inverse correlation between the US dollar and cryptocurrency, Bitcoin in particular. Certainly over the short to medium term, there's an inverse correlation. So if we continue to see a rise in the value of the dollar, that could be a bit of a concern, a bit of something we need to keep an eye on yet again. Finally, as I said, I wanted to finish on XRP. There's been a lot of positive news about XRP. There's a lot going on, but I think, again, we've had a very clear ABC type correction. Whether that B is there or whether it's up here, it looks like some kind of ABC correction anyway. Here's the A wave here. We have the B wave here and a C wave down here. So I think that we're moving quite nicely to the upside in impulsive fashion. So we've got basically wave one, wave two, working quite nicely on a wave three to the upside. I think it's got quite a bit higher to go. It should take out the previous all-time high here of $3.39. It's looking quite impulsive. So that gives me encouragement for, particularly for XRP. I think it's one of the bright spots in the crypto world for the time being. And I think there's a lot of upside to be had. It is, of course, used a lot within banking and potentially going to be used an awful lot more. So I think XRP is, I mean, we can actually see the real nature of the impulsive move here. It could have much, much higher to go. I just keep moving these targets higher and higher. All these green candles without any overlap. It's not like this. You see this correction here, there's lots of overlap of these waves. There's no overlap here. This is clear green candles to the upside and potentially a lot higher to go. So I think we need to be cautious, keep an eye on the news, keep an eye on Trump and his tariffs. But apart from that, in general, we've had a great start to the week, and there's no reason why that shouldn't continue. We should continue, hopefully, to see new all-time highs emerging for cryptocurrencies and risk assets as time goes on. So, and actually, just to finally finish, we can see here that the RSI on XRP here, this is on the daily, is in very much overbought territory, but there's no signs of a turnaround for the time being. And we know that we can extend much higher. We saw that previously in the past. So potentially higher to go. There's no divergence in place at the moment, so there's no particular signal that we are going to see any imminent turnaround in XRP. So for the time being, I'm looking to the upside. Hope that was interesting. Hope it helps. Thanks for listening. Look forward to catching up later in the week.